That is right, Chilling Reign has given us another Sandaconda card, which is super fun to use. Just like with the Battle Styles one, which milled our own deck, this one, however, spreads damage around our opponent's board and chips away at those big knockouts. Let's get into the matches and have some fun battles with it. And as always, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe as I do post these fun videos as well as competitive content and theme deck content. So there's something for everyone. And be sure to comment down below, let me know what you think of Sandaconda vmax. Let's start off by having a look at the Sandaconda itself then. This is the Sandaconda vmax and not the hugest amount, largest, whatever. Biggest amount of HP, 320, definitely could have been higher personally, but it is the attacks that we are focused on. Mainly the Sand Pulse here for 1 fighting energy deals 60 damage, which definitely not a huge amount of damage, but you do get to spread 20 damage to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon, and I do love me some spreading attacks and some bench damage, so I'm all for this and really love these kinds of decks. So we also have a good secondary attack here in the form of Gmax Cyclone. It does require 3 energy and you're going to be slowly attaching those manually every turn, but you do get to deal 120 damage and then you can move those energy onto your bench Pokemon in any way that you like. So this is great for finishing something off after you've been using Sand Pulse a couple of times to soften things up a little bit. Then you can go in with the Gmax Cyclone, do a whole bunch of damage, get that knockout, and then move the energy onto a different Sandaconda VMAX. And then on the following turn, as you can see here, we have Cheryl. So whether you're using Sand Pulse or you've just used the Gmax Cyclone, you can use the Cheryl here to heal up all of that damage and get a nice couple of extra turns of dealing damage with the VMAX. And to accompany this even further, we have Stone Energy in the deck, which is reducing damage by 20 as well, just as a nice extra bonus, really, as we do have the Shell in the deck, and it makes sense since it is a 1 energy attack cost, so there's no real reason not to play this. And as you can see, as we're so focused on spreading damage in this particular build of the deck, I do have the new Rapid Strike Inteleon. This is the one with the ability allowing you to put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. And you can do this multiple times a turn, as we are playing 3 of these Inteleon. And I do also have one of the Shitty Dealings Inteleon as well. This is just in case we need that extra bit of consistency, but for the most part, the Drizzile here with Shady Dealings as well is going to do the job, and often I actually find myself using this to get an Evolution Incense to grab ourselves another Drizzile and just get everything set up from there. But this is great for adding to your consistency, getting your supporter cards and whatever trainer cards it is that you need. But with the Rapid Strike Inteleon here, putting that extra damage counters down, especially against low HP Pokemon that are evolving, like in the current meta there's a lot of Inteleon around, there's a lot of low HP Pokemon that have to evolve, or if you're just trying to get some big damage in, then this can help build up that damage that the Sand Pulse is doing. So really great there for spreading damage around, and also crucial for taking out Mew, of course, with the bench barrier. This is going to be your way around that. If you don't have a boss's orders, just use this a couple of times and the Mew will go down and you can go and use Sand Pulse nice and easily. The other Pokemon that we have here is the Zapdos. Since it is a great 1 energy attacker, if your opponent has 3 Pokemon V in play, then you only need 1 fighting energy to attack with this, and you get to deal 170 damage, as well as discarding special energy, so again, it's a no-brainer in this deck, and it even has a 1 retreat cost to top it all off. Since we do have the U-turn board here, so 1 retreat cost is very manageable, since the Inteleon line, all of that has the 1 retreat cost as well. And for the consistency of the deck, I've just tried to max everything out with their Quick Balls, Evolution Incenses, and Pokecoms. We should have no issues searching at Pokemon. And we also have a fairly thick supporter lineup in terms of having both Research and Marnie at 4 count. I do also have a couple of copies of Karina's Focus in here, just in case we need some supplementary draw, because I was finding like the Research and Marnie wasn't enough, but you could definitely cut these for other cards that you want in here. Of course, you have Boss's Orders, which is good for finishing things off. And of course, if we're spreading damage, we definitely need the scope in here, the telescopic sight, in order to deal that extra damage to the real box Pokemon and get some nice easy knockouts that way, or at least just build up damage. But certainly things like Dedenne and Crobat are going to go down a lot easier with the telescopic sight here. So yeah, super fun deck. Like I said, I really enjoy doing bench damage and spread damage, so if you do too, then stick around as we have some pretty fun games here. Not super effective competitive games, anything like that, but definitely some close ones and some fun ones overall with a lot of bench damage going into play. So let's get into those matches. Be sure to let me know if you enjoy it, and I'll see you in the matches. Alright, starting us off here, we're up against an ADP deck. Very interesting as they're pairing it up with an Inteleon V, so they're going to be focused on water energy. We have a pretty nice starting hand. We've got the U-turn board, also got a quick ball that we can play down and get rid of that Cheryl. Definitely just going to be discarding it on the following turn anyways, so I don't mind that at all. And we'll just quickly check to see that we have the majority of our Pokemon, which we do indeed have. It's always important to check that you have the majority of your Drizzles and Sobbles, all that good stuff. Definitely need those. And I don't really mind about keeping the Sobble in the active, as they're likely not going to get a knockout, they're just looking for that GX attack. So I can happily leave the Sobble there, and then we can go into a Drizzle on this following turn and take it from there, since we did get the energy down on the Sandaconda turn 1, which is really all that you can hope for, as that's going to get you towards that second attack, the vmax Cyclone. Very important to get towards that attack, but of course we are focused on spreading damage, so it's not too much of a big deal if we can't get there. We do get the scope as well, which is a nice pickup off the top deck. Let's go into the Drizzle here. I think I'll just grab the Evolution Incense so that we can guarantee the VMAX. It's going to be great here for thinning the deck as well, and it means that we can get an attack off. So definitely evolve there, and we can research away the rest of this hand. Hoping for some more Sobble, that's the main thing that we're looking for here. We unfortunately don't get one, but we do have a quick ball, so we can at least search one out. Definitely go for that. I think we'll just discard the boss's orders, that seems fine to me. And we'll grab that second Sobble, put that into play. Nothing else that we can do to play out this hand, so we'll just go ahead and retreat and use a Sand Pulse. Unfortunately, we didn't find an energy there. Really would have been good if we got the second energy down to threaten the Gmax Cyclone, but we did at least get to use the Sand Pulse, dealing some good damage onto that bench Inteleon and putting some pressure onto the Sobble as well. We see the Drizzle from my opponent. That's going to allow them to use the Shady Dealings just like we're using as well. And they can get any trainer card they want here. They're going for the Melanie. That's going to accelerate a water energy onto that Inteleon V. Also gets them some cards off the top of their deck as well. And they're going to be evolving into the VMAX that they could choose to attack with if they have a switch. But it looks like they're going to be attaching onto the active Archistega Palkia tag team. So they do now have the energy to use that GX attack. And this is going to be an interesting game, because if they're able to use boss's orders on a benched Drizzles and Inteleons, then they could take some easy prizes that way. But we'll have to see what happens. We do have the Inteleon that we could play down, but honestly not really wanting to play down this Inteleon. I want the other one which can deal some extra damage, so I think we'll just go for the Evolution Incense and get that one instead. And we do also have the Drizzle in our hand, of course, that we can use Shady Dealings with. So we'll evolve here, we'll use Shady Dealings on our Drizzle, potentially just grabbing a Quick Ball, I think, to get out some more basics. And we are going to be discarding our hand anyway, so I don't really mind this. And we can always get these Pokemon back with an Ordinary Rod later. I'll just grab another Sobble so that we can start building up additional Inteleon. And we'll ditch this hand. See what we draw into here. We do get some energy, which is nice to see. We also get another Sandaconda, which is very good. There's that Ordinary Rod as well, so very nice draw there. trying to decide where we want this energy. I think we do still want it on the active, as they're not able to knock us out just yet, so we'll go ahead and attach the stone energy there. And we also have a Inteleon that we can work with. I think if we do 180 to the active, that puts them to 240, and then doing another 60 here, so it's not going to be relevant on the active. I think we'll just put it onto the Inteleon vmax in the back, and we can continue to spread damage across my opponent's board, making it difficult for them to get set up here, because they're going to be very worried about the amount of pressure we're applying to the bench. For example, with the Inteleon vmax, it already has 120 damage on it, mainly from the scope that we have here doing that extra bench damage, and of course our Inteleon. We do unfortunately get hit with a Marnie, so we're going to be losing that Ordinary Rod. Definitely wish we'd kept that around or even made use of it, but we still get into a reasonable hand here, since we can use the Pokecom to get into a Drizzle or a second Inteleon, and we do get another Sandaconda as well. Looks like my opponent is just going to be hitting us with the Ultimate Ray, and they want to use that to get some energy into play, which is fine by me. And if we lose the vmax here, sure, they take 4 prizes, but they are going to be forced to go through another vmax. Of course, if they do find the boss's orders, then they could just get a easy victory that way. But we don't really have many other options here, so if we go for the Shady Dealings, we could get a boss's orders on this Inteleon to get a knockout on it, which could be useful since it does have all of the energy, and then the vmax isn't going to be doing a whole lot. Sure, we still get knocked out, but I think that is a good route to go with overall, so I think we'll go with that. Hopefully we still have boss's orders in the deck. I know we did discard one, so with Pokecom here we can have a look. There is the boss's orders. We also have a Cheryl, which could potentially be useful. So we'll grab this Drizzle. That's going to give us the Shady Dealings effect. Grabbing out that boss's orders right here. We can just find it. There we go. And now we also have to decide how much energy we want to move, but I think we're going to be moving all of the energy, considering my opponent does have the Ultimate Ray. They can get the knockout here, even with our stone energy. So we'll go for the boss's orders, like I said. We also want to be using our Inteleon. Always remember to do that. And we could potentially just put it on this Drizzle and work towards knocking that out. Or we could put it onto the vmax, make that an easier time overall, since it does have 120, doing 180 to it, we'd get a knockout immediately if we have this Inteleon thing, so let's go with that. And like I said, we'll get the knockout here on the Inteleon V. We do only pick up 2 prizes, but that's alright since we're in a pretty good position overall here. Going to be moving all of our energy, like I said, across to the benched Sandaconda. And that's going to be meaning that we do have a backup attacker for when this active gets knocked out by the ADP on this coming turn. We do also get 2 prize cards here, the U-turn board, as well as another Marnie. Do like the U-turn board here, gives us a little bit of free movement, but we are most likely just going to be promoting the Sandaconda anyway. And even if we promote and leave the Inteleon in the active, then my opponent can just knock that out and easily win from there. Looks like we do have to discard a Pokemon though, which is very unfortunate. I guess we'll just discard a Drizzle. Definitely want to keep the Inteleon in play, so we'll just get rid of one of our Drizzle. Bit of a shame there, but these things happen. My opponent does only get to draw 3 cards, and also don't use a boss's orders, which is nice. Sure, there's probably just going to be knocking out the active, but like I said, that's fine because we have the backup. We're just going to be looking for a vmax here. Most likely need to find the Ordinary Rod as well, because I think we might actually be out of vmaxes since we do have one in the discard already. This is going to be the second one hitting the discard, so I can't quite remember if we have the third in the deck or not, and that's going to be something that we have to check here. There we go, my opponent taking their prize cards. They do get 4 prize cards here since they did get a knockout on a vmax with that Altered Creation GX attack. And we can actually promote this Inteleon. It already has a user board, so that works for me. We pick up another Marnie, so I guess they're just all going to go to the bottom of the deck. But we do get to limit our opponent's hand since they were building up quite a large hand right there. And oh man, this is horrible, but we can at least get an attack off with the Sandaconda here. It does have a reasonable attack for 3 energy. You get to deal 140. 140 is going to be enough to get a knockout since we do use Inteleon to get that extra damage down. So we can still do that at the very least and knock out the ADP. And we can retreat here. We have another Inteleon that we can use. I guess I'll put that on the Sobble. Try and take a cheeky prize there on the coming turn. And do we want to attach an energy potentially to the Inteleon to deal 70? The alternative is attaching the stone energy to the active, I suppose. That could give us a good bit of damage reduction. And we're already reducing damage by quite a bit, so I kind of like this approach. Means it's quite a bit harder for my opponent to get a knockout here. And that's basically all we're going for here. We get our 3 prize cards, going down to 1 remaining. If my opponent has a boss's orders, then sure, go for it, then they win the game. We do pick up our vmax, but yeah, if my opponent has the boss, they win. If they don't have the boss, we win, and there it is. It is some form of ADP, and for some reason, whenever I play against ADP, they just always have the boss's orders, which is very unfortunate, but hey, if they didn't have that, we would have won that game fairly convincingly, so very good game against ADP. Let's get into another one. Alright, getting into this one, it looks like we're up against a Charizard and Inteleon deck. Very good deck, I must say. Very popular video that I made on that deck. If you want to go check that one out, it was super fun to play that Leon Charizard. It does almost more than 300 damage, averages 300 damage anyways, it's close enough. But yeah, very good to play with Inteleon, and definitely recommend it as a good budget deck. So we'll have to see how we get on since we are a VMAX Pokemon. My opponent could quite easily get some big knockouts on us, so we'll definitely get our board established here. They are going to be taking a while to get set up since they are a evolution Pokemon or evolution deck as a whole. And sure, we are the same with our Inteleons, but if we're able to spread enough damage, then I think that's really going to win us the game as a whole, if we can just keep spreading damage to get multiple knockouts here. We did unfortunately miss the energy, as getting a Gmax Cyclone would be very nice to get a one-hit knockout on a Charizard as well. But looks like they're going to have to be attaching onto the active to get a retreat in, but of course with the welder, they have plenty of energy acceleration here. They've got the Crobat as well as the Rangaroo here for some extra draw, and they're going to be attacking us as well with that Sobble, which is fair. Let's start off this turn by evolving into a Drizzle. That's going to allow us to use Shady Dealings, and we can get another item card or trainer card out of the deck, potentially just a Evolution Incense to get the second Drizzle, although we do already have an Evolution Incense, but yeah, this seems fine because the second Evolution Incense can get us the VMAX, so we'll go with this. The first one here getting us another Drizzle, can evolve that, and then this one can get us a supporter card, which is going to see us a lot more cards here. Definitely going to go with the Professor's Research, since that draws us the most, and like I said, second Evolution Incense grabs us the VMAX. Definitely what we want to go for, and we do have the Sandaconda, which I'll just play down for the sake of it. Not really anything to do, you know, any reason not to play it down, so we'll play it down here. And we do get another Sobble, which is nice. Unfortunately, we don't have a U-turn board to be able to retreat here, so we're just going to have to manually retreat, I think. Don't really see a big threat from my opponent. Sure, they could get an attack off, but they don't have any Leon just yet, so I'm just going to use this energy to retreat now. And we'll retreat into the VMAX and pass it over to my opponent. This seems fine. We do have the Inteleon in our hand, along with the energy and the Marnie for the following turn. There's the rare candy. So they do have the Charizard, like I said, and it is indeed the Leon's Charizard. Or I like to refer to it as Leon's Charizard anyway. And it's basically you do more damage for the amount of Leon in your discard pile. It has this nice ability here, Battle Sense, which allows you to discard cards from the top of your deck. So that allows you to try and discard some Leon. And I do like the Oranguru in here as well. The Primate Wisdom means that if you have the Leon in your hand, then you can put it onto the top of your deck and discard it with that Battle Sense ability. So very nice little combo there. It's going to be tricky to get set up consistently every single turn that you use it, but it's certainly useful. And we see a Rare Candy getting the Inteleon and getting 2 Leon out of the deck here. Going and discarding one as well with the Giant Hearth. That's going to allow them to do 200 damage. That is quite a lot of damage, and we're already at risk of getting knocked out on this following turn, which is very sketchy. But we do have the Cheryl in our hand, which is good at the very least, and we've got the Inteleon as well. So obviously going to be playing down the Cheryl, heal up all of the damage on our board, and we can attach here to the active. Let's also remember to use our Inteleon. We definitely want to be sniping some damage where we can. And I think we can just put it onto the benched Charmander here. They're likely going to evolve it fairly quickly, but if we can build up some extra damage on the bench, then we might as well go for it. It's going to go over to my opponent. Let's see if they can get a knockout here. They need 2 more Leon in the discard. We'll have a look here, see what else they have in the discard, but yeah, of course they already have 2 in there. If they discard 1, then that's going to get them up to 250 damage, and if they also play 1 for turn, then that will allow them to do 330 damage, which is going to be enough to get a knockout on our vmax here, since we do have 320 HP. So this is where it's a little bit more tricky when it is a non-rule box deck, which is dealing a huge amount of damage like the Charizard here. If it is a non-rule box deck which isn't quite dealing as much damage, or it is but it has lower HP, then we can typically deal with those fairly easily. Things like Mad Party and Spiritomb, those kinds of decks are very straightforward to beat, since they do have quite low HP overall, so very easy to run through those and just spread damage across the board. We did pick up another Cheryl here, but my opponent chose to go for a boss's orders and pick off our Sandaconda on the bench, so we will just be forced to use the Marnie and look for some additional energy, look for some more Inteleon as well. Unfortunately not going to be able to find any of those, so we'll just have to play out our hand here and discard some stuff. We'll get the Zapdos and just discard it with the Hearth. I don't really want it in the deck anymore, since my opponent could just Marnie it back in, and it's not going to be serving us any use whatsoever. So we'll keep sniping damage onto the benched Charizard that my opponent got into play, since we do want to make it easier for ourselves to get knockouts here, and we can just once again hit the active for 60, spreading 20 to all of the bench, and keep building up that damage to get easier knockouts. We'd really have loved a scope here as well, so that we could do extra damage to the Crobat. That would help out the whole situation here, but mainly just the Inteleon would have been super useful for building up the damage. But we can at least get a knockout on this following turn, unless my opponent has knockout here, then that would be real unfortunate, as we're going to have to find a energy as well as another VMAX. They go for a Battle Sense, discarding a couple of more cards, and they do get down another Charmander. See, this is where the second Inteleon would come in super useful for building up damage on the Charmander, though I think it's probably got 70 HP, it does. So even the second Inteleon wouldn't be great, because we would need all 3 of them to deal 60 to there and then get the knockout with the Sandaconda. So a little bit out of our range. My opponent going for another boss's orders here to bring up a Sandaconda off the bench, so they don't even want to deal with the big VMAX here. Maybe they've prized their last Leon, and that's what's going on here, because of course they're only dealing 250, and they need that last Leon to get a one-hit knockout on our Sandaconda VMAX. So I'm guessing that's what's happened. They prized their last Leon, and they've just not been able to find it at all. If that is the case, I'm kind of sketched out here, and I kind of want to just play Marnie so that we can hopefully prevent my opponent from getting the Leon. So let's go with that. Hopefully we can find our Inteleons as well. And we do get the Evolution Incense, so that is going to find us a couple of Inteleon, or one at least. Let's go here. We have, we don't have any Drizzile left, that is a shame, but we can at least get the Inteleon out of the deck. We do also get the Scope and the Stone Energy. Stone Energy not going to be relevant. I mean, even if my opponent has the Leon, then they're doing what, 330? Stone Energy reduces it by 20, so I guess we survive a turn if we're able to find a, what's it called, a Cheryl, then it could help us out there, so sure, I guess I'll put that into play. We've got the Inteleons here. We just want to decide where we want to deal our damage, though. That is the main question. Kind of want to put it onto the Crobat and get a knockout here. The Inteleons are probably not going to be relevant dealing damage to that, so let's try and get some extra prizes off of the Crobat, and we'll do our 40 damage both onto there. And we have nothing else to play because obviously we want to keep a supporter card in the hand. We do get the knockout on the active, and we also get to spread some more damage onto the bench. Just picking up the one prize card is not great since it is another Scope, but we are close to getting a knockout on the active once again. Really, I mean, not a great spot because we need two cards here. We need a Cheryl and we also need a energy, and there's really no way of getting both of those because we can only rely on our top deck here, which is very unfortunate. Let's see what it is. We get a boss's orders, which, yeah, it's not going to be relevant because my opponent has the backup Charizard. Even if we bring the Charizard up and do some damage to that, that's not going to be relevant. We can knock out the active, I guess. So we'll do our 20 here, which gives us enough damage to get the knockout. We can do some damage to the Crobat since it's going to be knocked out as well. And that's all we have left. So yeah, just the Sand Pulse, get the double knockout, take 3 prize cards in one turn, which is still pretty respectable. And if we just had a little bit of a better hand and a better setup, because we were missing energy for the majority of that game as well, which isn't great, but if we'd had a better setup, I think we could have potentially made the game even closer, but my opponent got everything that they needed, just every stage of the game, and got set up really quickly, which is exactly what they are looking for. But that's alright, I still had a lot of fun playing with this deck because that's what this video is all about, having fun with Sandaconda vmax and spreading as much damage as possible. So hopefully you enjoyed the video as well, and I'll catch you in the next one.